I'd say my least favorite Zelda game.
It's something you'll find out very soon, as we had the chance to talk to Patricia Summersett, the voice of Zelda herself, for the series' 40th anniversary. And we talked about a wide variety of things, including her favorite Zelda game too. So let's stop wasting time and get right into our chat. Patricia, how are you doing today?
I'm super well. Thanks for having me, Andre.
Well,
Appreciate it.
thank you for being on here, because I wanted to talk with you about your role as Zelda in celebration of the series' 40th anniversary. Like, it's crazy to me that, for 30 years we had no voice for Zelda, effectively, and now for the last 10 years already we have. And it was kind of a game changer. Yeah, so how's that feel for you?
I mean, it feels very different in retrospect than it did when it first happened. It was so mysterious when this first thing came out, and I was like, wow, what is this going to mean? How are people going to react to it? What's going to be, how is this going to sort of change the landscape of my life and the trajectory of what I think about? And now, sort of 10 years in, because I guess I was recording in 2016, so
Right.
for me, it's like an actual involvement of 10 years. Happy ninth year to Breath of the Wild, an incredible, incredible game. I can say that I can look back on it with a certain degree of like, wow, that was a massive adventure of 10 years, and it was life-changing. And it still is life-changing. It did shift the course of my career path in the way that I travel the world, and I looked at games differently after that, was asked a lot of different questions in my life because of this career and because of this role. So yeah, I don't know. I look back with a very deep amount of appreciation for this whole thing, and a kind of amazement that after 40 years, it seems the franchise is still on track to be like incredibly innovative moving forward. We never know what's coming next. Yeah, I feel like it's 40 years young and a decade young with Breath of the Wild, now that it's kind of cemented itself as being a game that has standed the test of time and will continue to be talked about, I think, in the future. So, wow, I got to be part of that. Wow. Like, what are the chances, right?
I guess when you first auditioned for the role, do you fully know what you were going for at the time, and how surprised were you when from the result of getting that role?
I mean, I was shocked because in your career, these things don't happen very often. Prior to getting this role, I'd landed a few really awesome roles before on stage and in video games and a little bit of TV film. I'd also had some really big bummers that didn't work out. I was riding the highs and lows of the career already for 10 years. But really nothing prepares you for something like this where, it catches fire and it's the launch game of something and then it wins a bunch of game awards. There's just no way to predict how big that's going to be, especially when you go in, you audition for it, you don't know what it is. It wasn't as if I wasn't familiar with Legend of Zelda. Of course I was, and I grew up with the NES and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was a bleached script, so I wouldn't have known what I was auditioning for. I was really just hoping to make a great impression. I had moved to LA recently, and I was just like, the stakes were high for me to get auditions, land them, meet casting directors, do a good job. So the fact that gotten any role in any game was a big deal, and then to sign the NDAs and discover that it was in fact Zelda was just, it was breathtaking. It was mind blowing.
Breath of the Wild
The
taking
breath
might
of the
almost.
wild taking. I took a wild breath, jumped and parasailed my way across the plateau of
I
the
love it.
world.
We can just go forever with this
Yeah,
analogy. It's
we
so
could go,
good.
go.
Well, that's amazing, and having been involved now with the series for 10 years, like that's now already spanned four games, the two mainline Zelda games, then the spin-off series with Hyrule Warriors. And then you also mentioned too it opened other doors for you as well, I believe, in the voice acting space. Is that right? Or
Yeah, I mean, I think when you have a role like that, or it opens different doors. I think it might have closed some doors for me too. I wouldn't know.
right?
I'm not going to focus on that because I wouldn't know what those would be. But you get associated with a character, and a lot of people respect that character and that franchise, and so they go, okay, this person can hold a lead character in a game, and so maybe we'll consider her, or maybe we're curious about working with her. Like that kind of discussion can happen. You also network when you're traveling the world, and I've done a lot of conventions by this point, met a lot of other colleagues who are just, they're just incredible people to meet on their own, and then they become actual colleagues in a way, and you're like, this too is It's really it sort of shapes your universe very differently of how you see the industry. It's just very eye-opening. So, yeah, there's so many ways that this game has informed the game and the game series, and then being able to get back and do new iterations of it with new directors, slightly different variations in the team. Each time you go back to it, it's new. You have to bring your present self to it, and yet there's this wonderful lineage and follow through. So it's always just, yeah, it's a massive gift to hold a character for a long time.
Right.
And I think 10 years is quite a long time. When I was younger, I didn't think that was possible, probably. And now I'm like, oh, maybe it's even just a drop in the hat. We'll see.
Yeah, well, I remember as a kid, 10 years felt like an eternity, right? So,
Yeah,
which
especially when it's your entire lifetime, right? You're like,
exactly. And Breath of the Wild still doesn't feel all that long ago to me,
no,
and
I
it's
can't even believe it. I'm still meeting people who are just picking up the game.
that's
So,
amazing. Yeah, and that shows the impact that the game has had. So I mentioned earlier how you've now played a part in at least 4 Zelda games. I was curious how the process for recording is different potentially between them, because 2 of the games are handled by Nintendo themselves, the other 2 by Koei Tecmo, being the Hyrule Warriors series. So is there any difference for you on your end? Like, do you go somewhere else to record these? Is it directing any different? Is one game series looking for something a little bit different than the other? I was just
yeah.
curious, like, yeah, how that's like on your end.
Yeah, I guess in the ways that it's the same is that for me, the essence of the character and the way that I approach the character, that is that Zelda, that iteration of Zelda. She may be slightly different ages and going through different things, but she very much comes from that place that was built upon from the initial Breath of the Wild world.
Right.
Also, actually, so interestingly, so Tears of the Kingdom, the Zelda notes from the app with all the wonderful new lore that was
Right.
revealed, through the sort of like journal entries and stuff. And then also Hyrule Warriors: Age of Imprisonment. Those all had the same director, Hari Lee. So there was also the through line of that, being able to
Mm,
revisit, have similar conversations, similar sense of humor in the room, and you get a chance to sort of refine how you work. She's just phenomenal. Harley Lee is an excellent director, and I'm so happy to work with her multiple times, and I hope it gets to happen again. But yeah, so those things are similar, and then of course there are those just technical differences where you do get cinematics, which are very similar, and then you get these fighting elements where because it's like a hack and slash for Hyrule Warriors. You have Fighting Zelda, which is way more upfront, and there's a lot of sort of sound cues and things that have to be a lot shorter, where you might have like a 0.5 second sound cue, and and stuff like that's not going to be as prevalent in a Tears of the Kingdom game or something like that. It's just cinematics. So little technical elements, but a lot of crossover.
right. That makes sense. How much do they inform you beforehand of what exactly it is you're voicing? Like, for instance, with those like little yelps, for instance, do they show you like what might be happening to Zelda in that moment, or do they just kind of like tell you to run with it? I guess.
A lot of that is very, I mean, like any video game there, whenever you're doing, like, I'd say barks and onos or like emote sounds and things that can be applied to a lot of different situations. Some of them have to be very technically specific because they're already created in the game and they're being localized in several places and they need to fit the sound cue that was initially created. And then
Right.
other sound cues are maybe a little looser, or you need to speak about what's going to sound best for the English version of this that's going to be the most versatile that we can stick in here and then give it a backup plan, and then we can let the designers and the recorders decide when they integrate it into the game which is going to fit best. So it's a little bit of both of those things. So there is some flexibility and obviously some differences between each version in the different country and what seems to
Right.
fit culturally and locally. And then obviously like the very important through line of the story and the essence of the character that needs to hold potently and steadily in that. So.
Well, and kind of to that point, one of our fans had a question for you. We actually have a few questions I'll probably pepper throughout this from
Oh,
them.
cool. Yeah.
Mecca Matt had asked, how much free reign did you have to give Zelda the personality that's portrayed in the game? And were you able to give any ideas or feedback during the recording sessions to, maybe, refine something, refine an approach, or, perhaps be like, I don't think she'd quite say it this way. I think she'd say it this way, for instance.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's always a deeply collaborative process in these parts. I'd say one thing that's really amazing about working with Nintendo is that they come in so prepared and so It's so meticulous and everything's been poured over so much. Like
Right.
there's so many people weighing in. When you see the version of Princess Zelda that you see, that is created by like hundreds of people. It's it's really wild to think about. I'm just like the cherry at the end. Me bringing my voice to it is already a strong decision. So we do have discussions about everything in the room, and we try things, and then there's feedback. It'll often be filtered through a director, and we go, what would change? What would happen if we changed this context a little bit? What does that bring out in Patricia's iteration of this, and how does it fit with the image? We sort of are moving that all around.
Right.
But you're working with something that's already very it's very formed, I would say. So it's a different kind of work than another kind of game where you're going to be doing a lot of ad libbing or saying, I don't think she'd say that. I When I'm with Nintendo, I go, what do I'll bring my version, and we're going to marry it with all the people that are experts in the room on what this needs to ultimately sort of express in this. So
Right.
yeah, I'd say there's less room for that, but it is always a collaborative process for
That
sure.
makes sense. And speaking of which, actually, in a lot of your scenes, obviously you're talking to other characters as well, though one of them also includes Link, who doesn't really talk at all.
Yeah, isn't that unfair? Come on. No.
Yeah. So did you record your lines alone, or were you ever recording with other people from the rest of the cast too?
I'm familiar sometimes with what the other cast is doing based on like cutscenes and stuff like
Right.
that. But it's the kind of process with a dub like that where you don't have room to be ad-libbing or recording live with other people. It's such precise work where you have to match lip flaps
Right.
and a previous essentially song of a different character or a different even translation, like a Japanese translation. It's technical in that way, and you're just really trying to nail down those lines. What you will get is a lot of context before you do the line. You might have images in front of you to show you the cutscene. You're going to be running through the cutscene, and you're also going to have the director and other people talking about the scene. So you're taking all of that in, and then you're delivering it, and kind of like a lot of other work, you're imagining what the other character can say if it's not directly in front of you, or maybe the
Right.
director's saying, "I'll give you a line read in, and then we can." It can help inform how you would say that back in a responsive way, that kind of thing. That's always a form of the work. It's always a lot of imagination on who you're talking to. But it's like that in theater a lot of times too, if you're doing a monologue. So.
Right. Having been involved now with four Zelda games, at least four Zelda games, I was curious, is there a moment that stood out to you the most, whether, in terms of acting as the character or even just from, being involved in the series at all? Is there a particular moment you go back to that, like, oh, that was surprising or stood out to you in some way?
Oh man, there are a few. I think each game has its kind of interesting moment. I think exploring sort of different ages of Zelda within the games is always like surprising. You
Right.
don't know that's necessarily coming. There's certain cutscenes that are always deeply impactful that kind of, in a way, end up sort of summing up the game and maybe the storyline or like the major beat in the game that people come back to, that people will also want to talk to you about. And I think of Tears of the Kingdom and how totally surprising that the one cutscene was. That to me kind of has a very strong emotional impact. No spoilers, of course, but a lot of people come up and talk to me about, a particular cutscene that really shocked them and made them cry. And then we sometimes have a hug about that. And I'm like, awesome. I'm sorry, but I'm very happy to make you cry or be part of the team that got to make you cry. It means the story is working. And yeah, so yeah, I think about those sort of impactful moments, and there are always a few in every game, but sometimes you can find a lot and you can learn so much from like really tiny moments that are just like little playful moments where, the character's geeking out over a frog or a flower and, or, glyphs on the wall. And you go,
Right.
there she is. There she is. Yeah.
You mentioned a few moments ago, the slightly different interpretations of the character, like Zelda's age, for instance, changing. We had a question here from Paul Gale who asked if you were given the opportunity to play a different Zelda in a future game, like a different, either a different version of her or like a different age of her. Is there an instance that you would be most interested in exploring? Like, have you thought about that at all? Like, oh, it'd be fun to play Zelda as, this version or this age, for instance, or
Yeah. I mean, I have a penchant for playing very old women or mature women. I'm talking if they were like 90 years old, going like full transformation
Oh
into
wow.
that. Those were some of the first characters that I played in theater when I was younger. I'd be very curious to see. I mean, I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Would be, but I like to imagine what that would look like if a character like Zelda was portrayed as a much older woman. And I find that very interesting when I think about it today. Maybe I'll change my answer tomorrow.
Yeah, and
um,
in the game series all about like, time primarily or
yeah,
often involving time, like I feel like that seems like a pretty natural place to explore potentially at some point. So I like
maybe.
to see that.
Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be so cool? Yeah,
Yeah, I think so. I think that's untapped potential, Nintendo. Come on, let's get
yeah.
it together. I mean, in one of the Zeldas, we literally see Link as like a skeleton, like he's
Mm.
dead from a prior game and back as a skeleton. So I think there's room here to explore Zelda being a bit older, So,
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to see her as a skeleton, I'll be honest. But
what would
um,
skeleton Zelda sound like? That's
yeah,
what.
I don't. Yeah, she'd have no voice. She would
I
be
guess
all
not. You're
breath.
right. It's a good point. All right.
Oh, just like whatever you like. Yeah, what would that be? I don't know. Yeah, it's a good thought. I'd like to see people's iterations of that online. That'd be very funny.
Now you mentioned earlier when you first got the role, I believe you had said that you weren't. Correct me if I'm wrong. You had an NES, but I don't know if you played like every Zelda up to that point.
I
Maybe you
hadn't played
had.
every Zelda. I hadn't played
Okay.
every Zelda. I'd primarily the original Ocarina of Time,
Yes.
and then by the time I recorded Twilight Princess, and God, what else did I go back and? Those were the main ones, and then I went back and I sort of watched like little cutscenes and things from, and then people's gameplay of the other games. But
That's
those
a
were
good way.
yeah, those are the three major ones that I played.
You have a current favorite of yours, and we can include any ones you've been in as well. But up to you.
You're right.
What's your favorite Zelda then?
Aside from what I've been in, yeah, aside from what I've been in, which I would say of the ones I've been in, it's really hard to compare to OG Breath of the Wild because it just made such an impact on my life. It
Right.
was so wild and magical when that thing came out. In terms of transformation as an actor, there are very few things that are kind of as transformative as the impact of a project that comes out like that is both the storytelling and outside of the game. But Ocarina of Time, I would say, would be my other favorite Zelda game. Somebody had recently mentioned, they're like, what about putting Ocarina of Time, oh gosh, who was it? It was Sam. Ocarina of Time into like a Breath of the Wild engine, like that kind of crossover. And I was like, cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Let's let me steal that and let's say I want to say that I did that, or think that would be a good idea. Yeah. Just the innovation, like two incredibly innovative games that have gone in very different directions at this point, and they both represent these like huge transformations in the actual franchise itself, like these
Right.
kind of epic goalposts.
Now, something else that's happening in Zelda, as I mentioned earlier, is it's finally getting a movie. It's coming out, next year. So on its 40, I guess, is that still within the 40th anniversary? It might still be within the 40th anniversary of Zelda. I can't fully remember.
Yeah, good question. Maybe like right after. Maybe it depends on where it was released, because if it was
That might
released
be
in
it.
Japan or the U.S., yeah, different
So,
things.
are you personally excited for it? Like, are you gonna go lined up, or you'll probably be
I don't
invited
know
to
if
the
I'm gonna
premiere?
line up. We'll see how and when I see the movie. I'm excited to see the movie. I'm excited to see what they do with it and what they stick into it. I'm excited to see what the lore is and the sort of flashbacks and like how they give ode to other games or the franchise itself. Like it's really hard to tell what they're going to include in that. And the music, and you're just like, what's it going to contain? It's going to be incredibly lush, for sure, and incredibly well thought through and studied, and just I think they're just going to go for it. And obviously, Bo Bragason, and she's going to be incredible. You just know it. So I'm excited for. I don't know her, and I don't claim to know her or want to give her any advice except for a huge congratulations and like welcome to an incredible fandom.
Right.
I know what it's been for me. I'm sure it's just going to be huge for her, and what an exciting thing for an actor to take on. So, yeah,
Yeah.
congratulations and cool.
Well, that's awesome. Is there anything you would personally like to see them explore in the movie?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to weigh in on that because I feel like because Zelda's going to be portrayed flesh and blood by an actor who's going to be working with a very specific team on that.
Right.
From that angle, I'm like, I'm just curious to see what that will look like and feel like, and how it will transform our understanding of another version of Zelda, like all these other things that can exist within the amalgam of this character. There's so many iterations of her already, and this is going to be such a brand new one, and an exciting one. So in that way, I don't really want to weigh in. I would just sort of watch curiously and wide-eyed, and with an open heart, like people will. And then, yeah, other than that, I don't know. I just know that they're going to explore. I feel I'm going to learn a ton about the Legend of Zelda series by watching a film like that. They're going to inform me about all the things that they care about in showing in a feature film,
Yeah.
and that'll actually be really illuminating because there is always mystery.
What exactly is the lore of Zelda, right? Like, it feels like it's always
Yeah.
changing, so maybe we can dial in on that now.
Yeah, we
So,
can dial in. I mean, we just did like the Zelda app notes with that went into great detail about the world. I learned so much just being able to sort of read those journal entries. I was like, wow, it's such a big world. It's jumping all around. You just get to spend like it's like reading a novel of a book of Zelda. So I imagine, yeah, watching a feature film will be like a sort of distilled version of that too.
now something else that they could explore in the movie, but I'm curious as to your take, because something that's been, everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of people have theorized like about Link and Zelda and like what exactly they are to each other. So I was curious, just how did you interpret that role, like Zelda's how she relates to Link, when you were performing the games?
Oh, oh, interesting. When I was performing the games. Hmm. I was less concerned about I was concerned about scene to scene, and
Hmm.
what that felt like scene to scene. I mean, I think they have a deep a deep connection, whatever that may be. I enjoy very much that it's left ambiguous. I think there's a really strong purpose around that. And I'll say it again, what it means for me when I'm outside of the games is that anybody can come up to me in any iteration of an outfit with family, with friends, with a girlfriend or boyfriend or a lover or a child and say, I love this franchise, and I can kind of put whatever I want to onto that. So I like to be the person whom people can come up to and give whatever version they decide is important. When I that's so nobody's ever asked me that question quite like that before. I mean, I feel like I wasn't worried about it when I was recording. I was really
Right.
going with the scenes at hand and what was revealed within the scenes. There's always going to be tension and exploration about whatever sort of relationships exist with every single character. They're all important.
Hmm.
Um, I can say, recording as Zelda, it's easy to feel she feels all sorts of ways about Link, which are written into the script. She at times is really not very fond of him or feels maybe threatened by him, is deeply frustrated with her own role compared to his role. And then other times where she's thinking very fondly of him with deep, deep respect and incredible love about what they share and what their duty is towards the kingdom. And you're like all these things. It's such a big universe, and such a big relationship there. So I wouldn't want to limit it and say it's any one thing. It's also not for me to decide or say. So
That that's fair enough. And maybe we'll find out more in the Zelda movie, and maybe that'll influence future games, perhaps, or not. Who knows?
perhaps
So
I guess yeah. I'll be so curious to see what they do with it. Absolutely.
we did have a question from one of our audience members, being Nintendo guy, who did ask, Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, for you personally.
Yeah, I mean, so as I said, Breath of the Wild, it's hard to compete with the OG.
Right.
It has nothing to do with, I mean, I'm just saying that selfishly. It has nothing to do with like the gameplay or the way other people have experienced the game. It's really just me speaking from the impact it had on my life that first time experience. So I'm going to say Breath of the Wild today. I might feel differently about that on another day. I don't sit with one answer, honestly. Because
That's
I think
fair
about
enough.
certain things that we did in Tears of the Kingdom as well, and I'm like, that was such exciting work. And it might reveal itself to even be more exciting for me later on when something else happens in my life, and I think back to the memories of recording a thing, and I go, "Wow, oh wow, I can't believe I did that. Oh wow, I can't believe the character explored that and the writers wrote that thing. And I go, that means something anew, you know. So
Well, we're about out of time here, but I did want to ask one final question, and that is either is there anything I should have asked you that you think would be a good question to ask on the 40th anniversary of your involvement with Zelda, or is there anything you'd like to leave our audience with outside of that?
the only thing I'd like to leave the audience with is I think it's just never been a better time to be a Zelda fan, and I'm wishing everybody a happy 40th at Nintendo for this, for the thousands of people that have worked on this franchise. And that's really just how I feel about it. I like to think of it in appreciation, and I celebrate this with so many fans around the world who also are just they are equally invested in this series as players and artists and people who just enjoy the stories. I did have one question for you. What is your favorite Zelda game?
Oh boy, Breath of the Wild was amazing, and it might be. I think it's probably my favorite modern Zelda. But going all the way back, I still have a soft spot for A Link to the Past on the Super NES. Just something about that really, I think was the first Zelda that really captured like the idea of like, oh, there's a whole world here to explore. Which of course Breath of the Wild built brilliantly upon. But yeah, so I think probably A Link to the Past might be my overall favorite still. But that's probably a lot of nostalgia speaking at this point.
Wait, yeah, what else is there really? I mean, there's, yeah, that's a valid answer. I'd say my least favorite Zelda game, and I haven't even played it, but only because the thought of it stresses me out, is Majora's Mask. I'm just like, I don't know, man, the whole sort of like time frame where you have to start over if you don't, I'm like, life is too, it's too stressful for that.
Right? It's almost like reminding us of our own mortality. It's like, yeah,
Sure.
I know time's running out. Thanks for reminding me of that game.
Yeah, right, exactly. I can do yoga and meditate. I don't need to like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone on that. I think that game's
Yeah.
a little divisive for that exact reason. So, Patricia, thank you so much for joining me on during Zelda's 40th anniversary to talk about your involvement with the series and the series as a whole. It's been an absolute joy talking with you, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else you may be doing, whether it's Zelda or otherwise. So
Awesome. Yeah, I got some stuff coming out soon. Can't talk about it yet, but pretty soon should be some fun reveals. So thank you.
all right, hopefully people keep an eye out for all that then. So,
Yeah.
Patricia, thanks again, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you, Andre. Okay. I thought of something, and I should have said that one of the surprising things that has happened to me, it's not just blood moons, but it's now connecting to real blood moons. Like whenever there's a lunar eclipse, I'm like, Zelda. It's just like,
That's
or I'm like, the blood moon rises. And I'm like, that is so funny. It doesn't make any sense. Who would have thought? But yeah, weirdly, lunar eclipses have become a feature in my life. So.
I hope that wherever you are, you just say that out loud, and like if people are around you, like, wait, is that Zelda saying that?
Yeah, right, right.